All right, my friends, welcome to yet another episode of FDL Presents the Zach Russell podcast. And today I have the amazing pleasure of interviewing SoHee Lee. And if you guys don't know who SoHee Lee is, I've been following SoHee for, I would say 2017, since about 2013, which is unbelievable. Before the Instagram world and everything like that, I actually followed her blog a lot, and I actually found out about Lane Norton from her. And it's usually vice versa, if you guys know how that works. SoHee is a co-host with Lane Norton on the Physique Science Radio. She is an understudy, Brett Contreras, all these big names in the industry. She's been one to just provide so much value and help them, and she's partnered with so many of them, and it's just beautiful to see. And she's such an amazing human being. And she's actually in the process of getting her master's in psychology, and she's somebody I look to all the time for the latest on psychological research, and especially in the topic of flexible dieting. And I'm just so excited to get you guys this interview. And so he's battled with an eating disorder for 8 years. She overcame it though. And the eating disorder evolved over time, but over the years, throughout those 8 years, it got better and better and better over time. And now she's a completely different human being, living an inspired life to help other people battle these eating disorders and conquer them. In this interview, you're literally gonna learn what it looked like the 8 years of that eating disorder, how it evolved, like each and every step, psychologically, physically, and all these factors in our lives. How do you beat this? How do you beat this? But then more importantly, how do you keep it away? How does it not come back? And so we cover all kinds of questions and strategies around making sure your eating disorder never comes back. And that's the key takeaway you're going to take from this interview. Not only that SoHee's an amazing person and she's purpose-driven and she's just an inspiring, awesome person, but you're going to learn so many of the strategies that has given her the ultimate freedom from her eating disorder. So please, before we begin the interview, please give it a 5-star review. 5-star review, it helps so much. Helps so much, and allows me to get better guests, and also it gives us better reach on iTunes. And the more reach we have, the more lives we're gonna be able to change. And also, please leave a comment below, who should we interview next? It helps so much, gives me so many ideas, and if I get that comment enough, we will make it happen, I promise. And lastly, this podcast is brought to you by One Bars, Enlightened, and Protein Cookie Company. Let's get into the interview. All right, team, welcome to yet another episode of FDL Presents the Zach Russell podcast. And I want to thank you guys for listening in. And today we have a very, very special guest. And as you heard in the intro, we have SoHee Lee. She is an amazing person, first and foremost. She's super smart. She has so much knowledge in the field of psychology. And she's just an amazing person that we're going to talk to today. And I just want to welcome you on, SoHee, and say that I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for the invite. It's fun to be here.
Absolutely. So SoHee is somebody that I talked about in the intro. She's somebody that I've been following for a very, very long time. Before I even had an Instagram page, before any of that. It's yeah. So I wanted to leave that as a little surprise. So like I've been following her. I've been following Brett Contreras.
Yeah.
Those two for a very, very long time. I actually found them from Eric Cressy, who I followed a long time ago. Yeah. If you guys know who Eric Cressy is, then you have a thumbs up, a double thumbs up from me, because he's a legend. He's somebody that's been putting out quality content for a very long time. But it's funny how this all comes full circle, and I'm just so stoked to have SoHee on, because she's somebody that has from the very beginning, I kind of related to how she described things and talked about things, because she saw it more from a psychological standpoint and adherence, and knowing that each person sees the world differently, and we need to meet them where they're at rather than trying to change or mold them. And it was it's super fascinating. So I've always had this trust factor, and so I'm so excited for this, SoHee. So I just wanted to say I really, really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Can't believe it's been that long. Probably not many of you guys out there. I've only met, I think, one other person in person who've actually been following me for that long, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's cool. I remember you were taking the PN level 2 and I was taking it the following time
Oh,
through.
so funny.
Yeah,
That was so long ago.
I know, it's crazy how, I mean, but that just goes to show, because I get crap all the time, like, Zach, like, it's happened so fast for you. I'm like, no, it's not.
No one
Like,
knows about the behind the scenes and the late nights and the flights. I don't know about you, but I would, fly across the country to meet people and go to, all that stuff. And
mhm.
yeah, there's an overnight success. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. So, one question I like to start every single podcast with is, because we live in a world of social media, and that's our portfolio more than not. So, like, when I look at, so like, I'm going to get a haircut today, and I've been out of town every time I've gotten a haircut. But when I'm in Austin and I'm looking for a place to get my haircut, I'm actually looking at Instagram pages in the area to see if I find a place
Yeah.
that fits well with me. So, when I come across your page, if I've never seen it before, why would I follow SoHee Lee?
Okay, so we're talking about my Instagram,
Oh,
right?
just in general, social media, anything.
Okay, so I guess I would probably say I'm probably most active on Instagram of all social media platforms. But I'm very vocal about talking about the importance of customizing a program to the individual, and it's hard to get into the nuances without actually knowing the person's individual situation, but I make it very clear, there are lots of ways to make to reach a given goal, and here are the 2 elements or the 3 elements that have to be that are required for this process to occur. But there are 1,000 different ways to do this, and then I also like to share my workouts with and I don't see a lot of people doing this on Instagram, actually, sharing your full workout. Is here are my sets, here are my reps, here's the weights I used for this exercise, and here's what they look like. And I noticed that they tend to get a lot of saves, a lot of saves on Instagram. I think it's a lot of women and probably some men too who save my workouts, because when you go to a commercial gym, you see all these people lifting with poor form, or just kind of like lost in the gym. They just have a random work, they don't have anything planned. And I want to hammer home the importance of actually having a workout plan, recording your workouts, and then everyone wants to do like a different program every week. Stay with the same program for 4 to 6 weeks and get stronger over time, and then switch over or something. And so I share my workouts, and I also share infographics. Obviously, the past several months have gotten really popular. Infographics that help educate people. I think of them as like bite-sized pieces of simplified information. They're intentionally simplified so that they're easy for people to glance at, absorb a little bit of information, and then keep scrolling. And sometimes I try to cite research when I can, and I like to talk about different dietary practices for fat loss specifically, and also I talk about weight loss maintenance or fat loss maintenance. So losing the weight, and then also keeping it off, and then discussing, the research says this is more effective. This is the most effective way to weight train or to whatever. And then, as you talked about, the psychology aspect of how to increase dietary adherence, how to sustain results, how to approach your fat loss journey from a mindset standpoint, things like that. I talk about all that stuff, and you'll see me repeating kind of variations of the same messages over and over and over again for the past basically 5.5 years, 5-6 years. I've been the same messages, but in different mediums, different different platforms, different. Because I think it's so important. The repetition aspect of is super, super important. And then I also like to, every now and then, I don't do it too often, but I also like to kind of show that I walk the walk. Here's how you can maintain weight loss long term. Here's me doing it. And so I try to do a little bit of all those things.
That's good. I mean, that's what it is. It's like, it's the principles. It's funny how, like, over time, since like you've been in the game for so long, it just continues to rhyme. It continues to rhyme. And you just feel like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm saying the same things, but you're just saying them in a little tiny bit different way that adds a little bit more detail, or is shaped a little bit different, that somebody might grasp at that time, or the next time they might grasp it a little bit differently.
Right.
And
maybe 2 months ago, they weren't in a place where they were ready to actually be open-minded to what you were saying, because they were so, sometimes I feel like people just aren't ready to hear you, and you got to kind of let them experience the frustrations themselves until they're finally like, okay, this obviously isn't working. What do you have to say? And then that's when I'm like, oh, here's my message again. Oh, now you're gonna listen, and then that's when it clicks. So that's exactly why, I repeat messages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like we live in a culture, and anybody listening, don't take this the wrong way, but we live in a culture of sheep. And everybody wants to kind of follow the herd mentality. And then if more sheep or more people are following something, and actually social proof, and it's a lot easier to follow. So for example, if this is a visual, and I want you to, if you're listening to this, think of if you're standing on the sidewalk in New York and only one person is pointing up in the sky, and they're looking up in the sky. More times than not a lot of people are going to look. But imagine if there's 20 people pointing up and looking in the sky. I guarantee probably another 20 or 30 people are going to look up at the sky as well. And that's the same thing with what we're doing in the concept of flexible dieting. I think that is actually evolving over time now, because it was if it fits your macros, but now it's transitioning into flexible dieting. I think there's a big difference between the two. Because I believe that when we first start tracking our macros, we see macros as macros, and we don't understand. We try and see how much we can fit in. But then the all-encompassing approach comes over time, because then you're like, well, you start neglecting a lot of your vitamins, your minerals, your fiber, all these things. You become superfood focused, but then you start to find the things that work. You find that balance. You find that 80-20. And then it becomes a flexible approach with your meal timing structured. Like I know you have a lot of information out there on intermittent fasting and things like that. So like this approach becomes this more balanced lifestyle approach, rather than just, I mean, it's just like with anything. When we realize something that was off limits is now like open to consume, we want to overdo it, and then we go to one extreme to another, and then we slowly work our way back.
That I think that I've noticed that tends to be the trend with most people. Not just that, but also from a bragging standpoint, I guess. I noticed it doesn't really happen so much anymore, but 3, 4, 5 years ago with flexible dieting, with if it's your macros, everyone on social media was all about bragging about what junk food they could fit into their macros, into their diet. And pictures of donuts, pictures of Pop-Tarts, of ice cream, of all these things. And now you don't really see it so much anymore, because I really do think, so as an individual, yes, there's the extreme, like I'm going to eat all this junk food. I definitely have had clients and friends for sure who were like, I really thought back then, like it was a game to see how much junk food I could fit into my macros. And I'm like, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. And then they come back to the middle. And so that's on an individual level, but also as an industry, I've noticed that people talk less about all the junk food they can eat, and more about, well, actually, here's how it's really supposed to be. Here's what we really mean by flexible dieting. It's actually supposed to be what you said, 80% of your calories, approximately. And here's the other part about, that's ironic about flexible dieting, is that I still think that people can absolutely still be too rigid with flexible dieting, where they go, oh, okay, 20% of my calories is this number, so how do I, and I'm like, okay, no.
It's not that serious.
Very approximate number. The whole point is to just show the vast majority of your calories should come from nutrient-dense sources, and then a small portion, that's all it is. You don't have to worry about, well, is this protein bar good or bad? Is this considered clean? Those are the wrong questions to be asking.
Yes.
And so it's kind of been cool. I think a lot of people are very divided about how they feel about the infographic trend lately. And I think for the most part, they've been really, really helpful, because I think we're in an age now where people don't really want to take the time to read through a whole entire article necessarily anymore, but they are willing to read a very short post about, and look at a powerful visual, and learn something. And I think those have been really good about maybe addressing misconceptions with flexible dieting and things like that. And the visuals of, here's what the vast majority of your foods should look like, and here's what, and then things like that. And so they've been really good. And although obviously it's very easy to convey misinformation through infographics also, which is unfortunate. It just happened. But in terms of spreading awareness about flexible dieting, having the visuals, which I think are super, super powerful, those have been really great at helping people really understand, oh, okay, flexible dieting is not an all junk food diet. I gotcha. Okay, they still care about health. I gotcha. And actually, it's not about junk food is healthy so much as we're humans. We have cravings. We want to live life. It's about quality of life and maintaining dietary adherence and helping us prevent disordered eating behaviors like binge eating and food neurosis, obsession, things like that. And that's supported by, in the literature, over and over and over, that having a flexible, in the literature it's called flexible dietary restraint. So you're not seeing foods in black and white, just like we teach in flexible dieting. Having that mindset prevents a ton of bad, negative eating disorder behaviors, thought patterns, also prevents yo-yo dieting and weight regain, which is super important, especially in this day and age when we are all struggling to, as a general trend, to not be obese and to stay not obese. I think that's a growing concern.
Yep.
No intended. So yeah, good for that.
I see what you did there. So this actually leads right into it. So a lot of people that follow my material, my information, my platforms online, and I believe the same for you. I believe that so many people have come from some shape or form of disordered eating, for some way, shape, or form. They've seen food in a not so beneficial way at some point, whether it's considered disorder, like you have an eating disorder or not. I think we've all been in that realm before.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to kind of go through your background battling with this, because it's just going to show so much more of, I mean, we know the social proof. This was a struggle for you at one time, and some tips that you would have, or how the journey looked to get you where you are today, to where you can look at food in the right way.
Oh gosh, yeah, I have a pretty extensive history. I was anorexic when I was 14, anorexic and bulimic for a while, and a lot of it stemmed from one, not understanding the first thing about nutrition. I always tell people with that movie Mean Girls, when Regina, I think her name's Regina, the main girl, the mean girl, she's talking about dieting and food, and she goes, is butter a carb? And I remember watching that, and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. Is it a carb?
That's a great example.
No clue. I have no clue. And I'm like, people are laughing at that, like, oh my God, I can't believe she doesn't know. I'm like, I don't know these things. And I didn't really understand what calories, I had a general idea of what calories were, but I didn't understand that I didn't understand macronutrients. I didn't know if you could, now I can very easily say, oh, that's a carb and a fat, that's this and this. And back then I had no clue. I didn't know what protein was really and why it was important. I didn't know that some macros were more important had different uses and things like that. And so that was one thing. Two was exercise. I didn't know that I thought it was the more cardio you did, the skinnier you would be, etc. And then I also thought, and I think it's in large part due to the culture in which I was raised, that the skinnier you were, the thinner you were, the prettier you were considered. The prettier considered, the more popular you were. The more popular you were, the happier you were, etc. And so I kind of got sucked into that world and just said, okay, well, maybe if I just stop eating and do 3 hours of cardio a day, which is what I did for a while, then I'll be happy. And the opposite, obviously, the very opposite happened, where I lost a ton of weight, but I also was completely miserable. And one of my friends later told me that he was like, you actually became he described me as having become a complete robot. No personality, dead, was not very social. I was no longer bubbly. I wasn't funny anymore. All the things that you would expect to happen when you have an eating disorder. And I also noticed that I became completely consumed by food. And I remember when I was 14, I was in summer school in Massachusetts, Andover, Massachusetts, and I was around all these peers, and we were watching this movie Gattaca in the theater, on campus theater, and the teacher had brought a box of donuts. So everyone had donuts except for me, obviously. And I remember the entire movie, I kept looking around at all these people who could eat 1 donut or 2 donuts and then move on with their life and not obsess over these donuts. And I remember feeling so envious. And I go, how are they able to eat this donut and not go crazy and talk about other things other than donuts. And I didn't understand that. And I think that continued on through the rest of my high school years. I kind of transitioned out of anorexia after a while. I can't really say why. I think a lot of it came from not having energy and being an athlete in school and needing the food, and kind of, it was really difficult to, I don't know about your eating disorder history, but when you're anorexic and you're a full-time student and you're in school and you're around people all the time, it's actually really hard to hide it. It's pretty difficult to hide unless you become a complete recluse, which I was for a while. But so eventually I was no longer anorexic, but I was very much bulimic still for a while, where I would, binge and purge up to 3, 4, 5 times a day, and was kept up my running, but the weight started creeping back on. And I remember being at my senior year of high school, I was at a healthy weight, but I went home for winter break, and one of my friends, I was wearing these jeans and I had these love handles like over my jeans, and he grabs.
Oh no.
Anyway, this is not, don't do this to your friends ever. He grabs my, I was 5'2", 110 pounds. I'm not heavy at all. Anyway, he grabs it because I wasn't lifting weights, didn't have much muscle. He goes, "What is this?" And he's grabbing my back fat. And I'm like, what are you doing? So anyway, a month later, I stumbled across Oxygen magazine in the grocery store, and it's got this, I wish I could remember who it was, obviously a fit, lean, muscular woman, fitness model on the cover. And I'm like, what? How does she look like that? And I flipped through and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you don't have to be a professional athlete to look like this. And I fell in love with that look right away. The first time I realized you didn't have to be working out 6 hours a day to look a certain way. And so I'm pretty sure I bought the magazine. I dove into the clean eating world, right? That's when I started learning about macronutrients. And, obviously it's not the recommended approach for as far as mindset wise and everything, but it was a great way to introduction into the bodybuilding fitness world. Oh, here's what protein does. Here's what carbs and fats. So then I started to slowly switch my mindset from eat as little as possible to fuel yourself properly with these clean, quote unquote, clean foods. And as it so happens, as we're talking about one extreme to another, I kind of went from anorexia bulimia to orthorexia, which is still considered an eating disorder, harder to diagnose. I believe it's an unhealthy obsession with eating healthy, which is so ironic. And I developed a fear of, I was very gung-ho about eating these clean foods, chicken breasts, egg whites. Sometimes at lunch I would eat like 6, 8 egg whites with a salad, and looking back, it wasn't very tasty, but I was so obsessed with being this, being perfect with my nutrition. And then I would have all these fears of different like added sugars, things like that. So I still struggled with binge eating for a while, and still kind of was a little bit afraid of carbs and everything. And then I think after, kind of struggled with that through college, and really had a hard time finding balance with my eating behaviors and maintaining a social life. I wasn't thinking about quality of life for a really long time. I just thought, if I'm ripped, then I will be healthy. But as you know, as a lot of people know, you can be ripped and completely so unhealthy in the mind, in the body. So they're not necessarily correlated. So anyway, I went through college. That's when I started working with different online coaches who had me on meal plans for a while. And I remember you can't really be expected to stick to a meal plan when you're a full-time college student, freshman no less. So I was good for a while until I wasn't. And then my adherence started dropping. And I remember all through college, ironically, it was just strict as I was with my nutrition, but I was also at my heaviest body weight. And that is because my adherence was so mediocre. And my binge eating episodes were still happening. And I also was not very social. I didn't know how to do all of that. So I was at my heaviest weight, doing the most exercise I was lifting weights. I was doing lots of cardio still, doing a lot of metabolic circuits, and but also eating a lot. So one day I'd be on point with my diet that was a little bit too strict for me. The next day I'd be binging, back and forth. And then it wasn't until 2014, I think, early 2014, when I realized, you know what, I've been trying to diet for 5 years straight, and I've not lost a single pound. This is the heaviest I've been in my entire life. Something's obviously not working. And so I just said, screw this, I'm not dieting anymore. And ironically, it's when I stopped trying to diet that the weight started coming off. And that was a real turning point for me with my mindset. And I realized, oh, okay, there has to be something here. The less strict I'm trying to be, the better my adherence actually is, and the lower my actual calorie intake tends to be. And I think it's important to talk about your target calorie intake versus what your actual intake is. They're very different. And I think people focus too much on their target calorie intake. So once I started lowering my actual calorie intake to a more reasonable level, the weight started kind of coming off of me slowly but surely. And now I've been, 3.5 years, I've been maintaining my weight loss since then. And I'm not that I was ever obese or anything before, but it was more of the extra weight was more of a manifestation of my mindset, of my dieting behaviors, my exercise behaviors. And now I'm actually got to the point where I'm finishing up grad school, getting my master's in psychology, studying the psychology of eating behavior because this stuff fascinates me so much. But I'm learning that achieving lasting weight loss results is not about being as strict as possible, like many people think, or having the most amount of self-control so much as changing your lifestyle, having a lifestyle change. Also, there's also a cool study that shows, and this is what I found through my own practical experience too with myself and with working with clients, is that the more you minimize feelings of deprivation and minimize feelings of, or I guess you could say, minimize the amount of change you have to make in your life, like negative change where you feel like this is suffering and things like that, the better off you are with weight loss maintenance and things. So the point should be to find the intersection between what is most practical for you as the individual, what you enjoy the most, and also what's actually going to get results. And so I've done this a few times on my Instagram and other places where, I draw a Venn diagram and I show where the overlap is where you should try to be, where you enjoy it and it gets results. Find that overlap. So you can do what gets results and not, you won't adhere to it for a while. You can do what you enjoy, but it won't necessarily get you results, So you got to find that overlap. So now I'm so big on like the way you eat, enjoy your exercise regimen. I'm more moderate with my eating behaviors and my exercise more than ever now. And it's not negatively affected my progress one bit. So getting people to move away from extremes and embrace moderation a little more is proving to be rather difficult because people really like black and white, oversimplified, oh, do this, don't do that. Information, they're mental shortcuts, they're easy. And moderation tends to be a lot more uncomfortable for people. So that's been my mission for the past little while, is to make moderation cool. I kind of say, make it cool.
Yeah, and I've seen it grow over time. It's been awesome.
Yes.
Like you've said, you've been rhyming for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been very consistent. And I can see with what you've been doing is you're more focused on now, just proving over and over again what you've already what you've already learned over the years, and now you're taking it into your own hands and your masters, and it's super awesome. So what I would like to know is, okay, so I'm a huge proponent of 80-20, and as it seems, in the sense of like I'd rather somebody be 80-20 versus 100%, because of the simple fact of, obviously you're not going to have those peaks and valleys of adherence, but you're also going to have less stress, in the sense of, I think stress is the worst thing. Like, obviously, like hair pulling out stress is the thing that I would like for us to limit the most. We obviously need good stress.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that hair pulling out stress, I want to limit. And so I feel like the 80-20 rule is the best way of doing that, instead of having to go 100% and just stressing yourself out.
Well, the other thing with that too is that when people start out on their fitness journeys, they're so I think it's good to be enthusiastic, obviously, but they become so gung-ho about achieving a goal that they're like, oh, I just want to go as hard as possible, as extreme as possible, because I have all this motivation. Therefore, I'm confident that I can maintain this extremely strict, unrealistic regimen for the next 3 months, 6 months. And they don't realize that, and I talked about this a few times before too, with the in science it's called the hot cold empathy gap, where right now. So right now I'm well rested, I'm well fed, I have good energy levels, I'm in a good mood. If let's say I have like 20 pounds I want to lose, I'm like, yeah, I can work out twice a day, 2 hours at a time, and eat an 800 calorie diet. Because right now I feel good. What I fail to consider is that maybe a week from now, I'm going to be tired, cranky, hungry. I'm going to have, got into a fight with a friend or a family member. I'm going to be in a bad mood. Conditions are going to be very different, where the idea of working out for that long and eating this miserable diet is not going to be so appealing to me anymore. So they fail to consider how difficult a given circumstance is going to be when you're in a different situation. And so what you see with New Year's resolutioners, for example, they always make this mistake where they go too hard, the January gym goers, and then by February they're gone. And obviously sometimes it does work out, which is awesome. But a lot of times they fail to consider how difficult it's going to be. They fail to think about their long-term behaviors that they have to make. Oh, I actually have to keep this up for life. Or there's a lot of, well, I'll just get to there. I'll get to my weight loss first, and then I'll deal with the after once I'm done. And they don't realize actually that's the more important part. That's way more important than the actual 6 week stint or whatever. And God, it's so hard to battle that mindset. And it's I think it's been cool to see on social media. I feel like there's been a growing movement with people like you and other people who really get the word out about this 80-20 approach, that be more moderate, don't go 100%. But even so, there are still people who, one, either don't see the message, or two, they are skeptical and not ready to listen. And I really think
that just comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, there's going to be a time where something happens in their lives and they happen to see something, and then they decide to take action at that time.
Yeah. And it's sad. It can be frustrating because I feel like, I'm sure you get this too, but I get messages pretty often from people like, I have a friend who's trying to lose this many pounds in this many weeks. It seems kind of extreme to me. She's following a 600 calorie diet, and nothing I say to her will change her mind. I'm like, there's only so much you can do with someone who has decided that they don't want to hear anything from you. But unfortunately, sometimes they just have to make the mistakes on their own and stumble. They're like, okay, I've actually gained weight instead of losing weight, so I'm obviously not doing something wrong. And then finally, they have to be open-minded to learning from you, and that's not always the case.
Absolutely. Well, and this is like you talking about like a 600 calorie diet. Like, we have this society where if something is not hard, it's not working. It's like, whoa. It's like, and I was like that as well. It's like, well, like obviously, if it's hard, it's something that probably is, but it actually might be doing more harm than it is good. And it's like this whole cycle, like you're studying the psychological benefits of moderation. It's like, well, we want extremes, but moderation actually seems like the worst thing for most people because they don't think it's going to get them the results.
Yes, it's so interesting to me when I every now and then a client emails me, they go, "This is too easy. Equals is not working. It's too easy, therefore it must not be working." Or I'm not hungry, or I'm only in the gym for this many minutes a day. It's not enough. And I'm like, why do you use these things as a barometer of how successful your program is? You should actually use the actual progress you're making. That's what you want to measure, not just how much am I suffering? How bad do I feel? And so interesting. I feel like they've become brainwashed to expect that. And I've had one or two instances when I had a client actually quit with me because they lost, actually, this was pretty phenomenal. This had one lady who lost 4 inches off her waist in 2 weeks, which is amazing, right? By any measure, for anyone. 4 inches off your waist in 2 weeks. Incredible. And then she goes, "This isn't fast enough for me, I quit." She was on high dieting calories. My approach is to start people off on eating as much food as they can while still making progress to, minimize hunger, things like that. And it wasn't fast enough for her. It wasn't hard enough for her. And I wanted to tell her, God, if you had just stuck with this for 2-3 months, your progress would have been phenomenal. And I would not be surprised. I don't know what she's up to now, but I would not be surprised if she ended up putting the weight back on and is continuing to struggle with her yo-yo dieting still. So that's really unfortunate to see, but I think it really kind of serves to exemplify the mindset of the average person who tries to lose weight nowadays, especially at least in America. I don't know about in other cultures, but it's this: no amount of weight loss is ever good enough unless it's like 10 pounds a week or something extreme like that. Really, really frustrating to see.
It is, and it is sad. It's we live in a society where we constantly are comparing ourselves, and it's like one of those. It's like the social media is amazing because you don't feel like you're alone, but again, you can find a tribe of people that help you feel normal, but then also you can find tons of reasons to make you feel like you're not normal or you're not good enough. And it's and I mean, the psychological detriment that happens to cause is sad, but it's just like, it's a double-edged sword. It's the benefit. There's always pros and cons to anything.
Yes.
And it's just how you see it. It's and I know we both battle with that still. With, if we're trying to be better and better on a daily basis, we're always comparing ourselves to people who are doing something similar to us, and they might be doing something a little bit better in our eyes is better than what we're doing. But in reality, we see things a little bit different than them, and we offer something that's truly unique compared to them. And it's just super fascinating. So I wanted to definitely cover this topic, the whole idea of the whole eating disorder realm of the professionals and the people actually battling it. It's become like this huge, I would say, like, battle, in the sense of like anybody that is a eating disorder professional that helps them, like there's like this like, don't say anything, don't help whatsoever, don't give any advice, nothing at all, you're not qualified, everything like that. And I wanted to kind of get your take on that and what you think. Obviously, I mean, feel free if you don't want to give any opinion on that. It's just a lot of times I see people with eating disorders. I'm not giving them concrete like details, but they just want to know that they're not alone, that somebody's there to help them, that they can talk to. But the professionals say, like, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way, because more times than not, when somebody's battling with something, they just want to make sure, they just want to know that they're not alone.
Yeah. I think social media has been really good for. I've noticed that over the past several years, when I share my own story about my eating disorder struggles, people love it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh my God, so comforting to know that you have been in my shoes and now you're on the other side." So that gives me hope, because I know for a fact when you are, binging and purging 5 times a day, there comes a point when you're like, I'm 100% convinced that there's no way I can get better, that my life cannot turn around. You don't think there's any way out of it, because you feel so out of control. You feel like, people who struggle with binge eating very much feel like you're being controlled by the foods, like you're completely powerless to what happens. And it's a really, I'm trying to think of the word, not demasculating, but what's the opposite of empowering? Anyway, it's a really frustrating feeling.
Yeah, hopeless.
Yeah, sure. To feel like you can't even control your own behavior. You can't even control what food you eat and how much. And I think that there's absolutely a ton that people can do, even if they're not formal professionals per se in eating disorders or anything, to help others with by sharing your own story and talking about how you came out of it. And that can be very, very encouraging to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, who maybe don't really have anyone to talk to, or don't understand fully what's going on or why. And I think, obviously with full-blown eating disorders, if people come to me with full-blown eating disorders, I go, that's outside my area of expertise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Please see a professional for that. But general things like, oh, I have some trouble with binging eating every now and then, or I have these thoughts about food, I have this fear, I have this concern. Those are things that I can
it's that fine line. Like people like to say they have an eating disorder, but I see it as this disordered eating. And it's not like the fact that some people, like, it's freaking obvious when somebody has an eating disorder. Like there's like, boom, like it's written and like, it right away. But there's some things that, like, there's disordered eating that might be a little way you see food, or some habits that you have.
Just a little bit neurotic, or a little bit like, I don't know if that's really healthy, but yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So I would say the biggest thing that I've seen a lot with people who have eating disorders is just we don't like what we don't understand. And it's the fact of like once we understand the variables and we understand like the macronutrients, we understand what our body needs and things like that. And we understand that fact that there's no foods, quote unquote, we can always have something tomorrow. There's not like you just get it out of your system mentality. I feel like everything starts to change. And obviously that's per case, but I see in the average person that you're going to deal with, it's just a lot of disordered eating comes from the fact that they just don't know what to do.
Yeah, a lot of not having the knowledge, the ignorance, like myself, and I obviously sometimes, and I don't fully understand. No one fully understands exactly why sort of happen. It's a huge combination of many different things, obviously different from one person to the next. But I know a lot of times it can be sometimes not about the food at all, right? It's not about your body image, not about dieting, not about being skinnier per se. It's something else, and it's manifested in the form of an eating disorder. But I think that eating disorders are so complex.
Yeah. Oh, they are. I mean, without a doubt, there's so many different facets that go into the decisions we make on a daily basis that are not even food. It's like, it's just you talked about empathy earlier, like having empathy to the fact that like you have no idea. So like when me and you are talking right now, like I honestly have no idea really in reality the life you've lived, all the small little nuances and details that have shaped you into the person you are today. But I want to go into every reaction with that empathy, knowing that I don't know all the answers. So I'm going to come at it that way rather than just assuming that I do. And I think that's the sign of a really good coach, understanding that like everybody's different, just like you said, like every eating disorder is different and it rhymes, but it's all different. And I think if everybody were to like become self-aware in the sense of like, okay, I made this decision. Why did I make that decision? Okay, backtrack and really like kind of look at the what is the trigger and all these different little, think of their life as data. And okay, how many times did this trigger happen? This and this and this and this, and then kind of backtrack like that. But I mean, that's so hard to do when you're so deep into an eating disorder. Like
Yeah. And with eating disorders too, sometimes it's about not knowing the information. Sometimes you know the facts, and it's still, logically you understand, okay, this is how it should be, but you still, it's like there's a fear, or you're holding back, or changing your thought process is really, really, really hard. Really hard. Letting go of the way, your habits, the current way you've been living your life, that can be really difficult too. And especially with extreme methods, it's okay. These extreme methods maybe kind of maybe they're not working. Maybe they make me miserable, but they're easy for me to grasp and understand. So I'm going to continue doing it this way. And moving away from that can be absolutely petrifying for people who are used to, being in control or just used to living a certain way. And for me, I found that with my coaching, a lot of my coaching ends up being kind of feels like therapy sometimes, where they're like, oh, I have all these fears. I have all these, like, okay, you got to talk it through with them and help them over time, hopefully see things in a different way, or get them to understand that, okay, logically, I know that one cookie is not going to make me fat, but actually getting myself to eat that cookie is totally different. It's that step of, okay, now I'm actually going to implement this but so you have, you're like gently nudging them in the right direction and things like that. So,
I was asked the question the other day. I was actually on somebody else's podcast and they asked me, they said, hey, like, how would you get somebody to start, like go from this 100% clean mentality and then move to a little bit less than 100%? And I said my example would be just to understand that they were like, well, what would you have them do on a daily basis? And I was like, no, I want it more of a weekly basis, in the sense of I want them to try and eat one food that they thought was off limits once a week. Literally, it could be as simple as just one Oreo, just once a week, just one time in a week. And then they're going to realize like, whoa, nothing bad happened. And then maybe next week they have 1.5, or they just do one again. And it just slowly over time builds that, oh my gosh, like I feel fine. Actually, I feel better. Like, and then over time they have this better relationship. And it's something is better than nothing. And the simple mindset, just get the momentum going and just kind of get the things moving forward. And it's just like with anybody that's super overweight. Like, do you tell them to go in the gym 6 days per week? No, I don't even tell them to step into the gym. I just say, start walking more, focus on your nutrition, move more, look at your lifestyle, look at all the ways that you can sneak in movement. And then what happens? Adherence is through the roof. And then they realize, Zach, like I can do more. And then it's like, okay, they're asking for it. Now they're ready. And then you give them more. You make them win.
I think there's a lot to say about building momentum, where even with just like general productivity in life, if you have like one thing to do all day, you're going to take the whole day to do one thing. If you have 10 things to do, you'll get all those 10 things done, or at least most of it. You'll get a lot more done than you would if you had just nothing to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really think that getting the ball rolling on numerous fronts can help a ton. But you got to start with what you can manage first.
What you can adhere to.
Getting into the gym too can be really intimidating for a lot of people, especially with, I know like some men struggle with it, but I know with women too, it tends to be a more common problem where they feel intimidated to be on the gym floor because they don't want to feel lost. They don't want to feel judged. They don't know how to lift this weight. They don't know how to, get the barbell off the rack and do these things. And so, yeah, if you can help them, start them off with walking, or maybe do some workouts at home, do some body weight workouts in the privacy of their home, then they can build confidence and go from there. And I think getting people to build the momentum, but also meeting them where they are, what we talked about before, such important parts of eliciting lasting change that I wish more fitness professionals and general fitness enthusiasts who help their own friends and people would understand more of, is not pushing them to the extreme and kind of just telling them, well, maybe if you just try harder, you'd get there. And which is one of my biggest pet peeves, and also probably the most unhelpful piece of advice you could give to someone. Maybe just try harder, because they probably are trying hard in their own way.
They're trying really hard. Yeah.
Not using the right tools, don't have the right things like that. So yeah, having more empathy, being able to modify your recommendations and your methods to the individual, be willing to stray from what's considered optimal or what you think is the right way to do things, and be flexible and bend more, and stick with what they can consistently do. That's with flexible dieting, with leaving some room for treats on a regular basis. That's very sustainable. And I've only met maybe 1 or 2 people in my entire life who genuinely don't care for junk food, but they're the very rare exception. Everyone else, they like, even the clean eaters. How many of them have cheat days?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
How is that any better than having, some treats at least I can control, you know what I mean? So everyone likes junk food to some degree. And so allowing for that and being more realistic and making your diet fit your life rather than the other way around. Those are all important things to keep in mind.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of the minimum effective dose. Like literally, I mean, just like with you want to have your clients eating as many calories as possible to get them results. You want them working out as little as possible, not that much, as little amount of cardio as possible. You want to affect their lifestyle as little as possible. Like you just want to literally just add little snippets here and there that allow them to live the life they desire, and then move things forward with these little changes. And that's what it's all about. So gosh, this has been cool. This has been really cool. So if you could, I mean, this is gonna be a hard question. If you could give, and I know people on here, some people have battled with eating disorders or some type of disordered eating. what could you say, just for a few things, because you've really battled with it, what would be a few things that they can kind of add to their lives right now, or just implement that would help them kind of move towards, I mean, they're probably listening to like, wow, I really, really wish I am where SoHee is. And I know she's been there. What advice would you be able to give to them?
I think one of the biggest barriers is this inability, or not inability so much as unwillingness to trust that the process will work. This fear that I can't stop doing all this cardio or else I'll gain a bunch of weight. I can't not work out for 2 hours a day because I'm going to undo all my progress. I can't not eat 800 calories, or else if I'm not eating 800 calories, I'm going to balloon overnight. It's this fear that, like, if I'm not doing this, then the extreme opposite will happen. Mm-hmm. And, I can try to talk you out of it all you want, but I found with that, one of the best ways to help change your mindset is to actually implement a little bit of that behavior change in the right direction a little bit. What you were talking about with the 1 Oreo a week, do something like that every day. Maybe go to a party, have one cookie, walk away. Have one drink, walk away. Next day, you can take measurements again if you want. Oh, I didn't gain any weight. I didn't gain 20 pounds like I thought from the one cookie. And you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And then you slowly over time kind of do a little bit more of that, repetition. And that, to me, what I've noticed, that's when they start to go, oh, okay, now I believe it. Now I believe it because now I'm living it. Mm-hmm. And okay,
practical.
I'm gonna scale back on my cardio. I'm not gonna do 3 hours a day. I'm gonna do 1 hour a day this week. Next week I'm gonna do 30 minutes a day. Eventually I'll just do a few days a week. And I actually find that I enjoy it a lot more. I have more energy. Now I can get stronger in the gym because I'm not so drained all the time. Maybe my cravings have subsided. Maybe I'm actually more active the rest of the day because I'm not so drained from all the cardio I was doing, which then actually increases my total energy expenditure.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
That's how I work. That's how I am.
Totally with me. I don't do a lot of formal cardio, hardly any, because I know for me, an individual response is different, but I get very, very drained from cardio. And I noticed what I was talking about 5 years ago when I was doing the most intense cardio with metabolic circuits and high intensity interval training. For me, I ate a lot more. I ate so much more. And
your hunger craving would go up. Yeah, that's funny.
It goes down. So it's very individual. So I know, and then I'm also very less active throughout the day. And so I keep it to a minimum. But anyway, getting people to move away from doing all this cardio out of fear. Obviously, if you enjoy it, genuinely enjoy it, that's completely different. Out of fear, and maybe embracing strength training a little bit more. Maybe to think less about how many calories can you burn during exercise to how much stronger can I get in the gym, or how, maybe instead of I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because I believe that a lot of times people want to set these physique goals for themselves. It's actually that they think if they look this way, they're going to feel confident and happy. Yeah. But actually, they're not always related. You know?
And it's funny, like I equate beauty to confidence. It is cool. It's I always am asking myself, like, okay, why did I think that girl was beautiful? And it's because a lot of times it was the way she handled herself. It was the confidence she had. It was the excitement and that she had about something that she was talking about, something that she's working on, something that she was motivated by. And it was just so cool. And then I look back, I'm like, I didn't give a crap if she had freaking, if she was that lean, or like, it didn't matter. Like, it was more the fact that like she was able, like I was I was like, whoa, I was engaged with what she was saying, and she was living, and she felt like she was inspired. And like, it was just, I never look at those factors anymore. They're all so surface level. Yeah. And the moment we realize that, and we can truly understand that, like, the surface level only gets you so far. It's those meaningful, deep assets and skills that you have inside of you that that are suppressed whenever you are so surface level focused are what truly, truly lead to you becoming a beautiful person. And that's, I mean, I don't know. I just went on a little tangent, but that's just like how it's amazing how you start to see things differently. Like I don't know. It's the moment I started asking. So that's something I want to challenge everybody listening is the moment you start asking yourself better questions, the moment you're going to get better answers. So if you start asking yourself, why do I feel this way? Or why do I see this person? Or why do I love this person, but they don't quote unquote look like that person that is on the magazine? Think about that. And then think about how people are going to view you and what might be suppressed or how is your energy contagious? Are people smiling when they're around you? Are they talking about good things when they're around you? Or are you encouraging them to talk about bad things? And thus leading to this conversation of gossip rather than conversation of how we can make each other better. And and that's where it just gets so much deeper than food and all this stuff. It's
aesthetics, yeah, and abs.
so the moment you become more than surface level is the moment your life changes, and it's everything.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I really think that I definitely have noticed in the past several years that started noticing that people I'm drawn to, the people I tend to gravitate more towards and develop a liking for are the ones who I don't care about what their body looks like. I don't care how physically attractive someone may consider their face or whatnot. It's more how do they treat other people? Are they in a good mood? Are they fun to be around? And I've talked about recently too that, you know, I'm like, I don't really post many progress pictures anymore. It's not my focus. It's not my priority. It's not my physique. And, you know, some people were like, well, you're a fitness professional. How is that not but there's so much more to fitness and health than your freaking body. How much muscle you have or how lean you are is so much more than that. And I'm like, you know, I'm just happy. I'm happy with my body. I'm fine with this now. And it's taken me a really long time to get here. So now my mission is so much more than just look a certain way. But you know, I care more about the research now and things like that. But really, how you treat people, how your interactions, the quality of your relationships, those things are quality of your life. So much more important than, well, I have abs and you don't. Therefore, I'm a better person. I used to think this, and you know, I'm sure a lot of people still do. I have abs and you don't. I'm leaner than you. Therefore, I'm superior as a human being to you.
And it's unbelievable.
Mindset. Yeah,
it's super sad.
Especially in fitness, it's like, you know, I'm leaner than you or I'm stronger than you are. Ugh, I hate that.
Well, there's so many ways to gauge it. So like I look at those people and then I compare them to myself and I think, okay, well, are you setting relationship PRs? Are you setting making people feel good PRs? So when you feel that bad, I guarantee you're walking around with a permanent B face on and you're just not as nice person. You're not as creative. You're not as spontaneous. You're not making people laugh as much. You're not doing as much in general. You're not as social. All these different facets. You're not just calling somebody to say that you appreciate them because you're not going to feel that great. And there's just all these different factors that come into it that just, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I've realized it's really not.
That's when I started to with my anorexia, you know, for almost 14 years ago now. It was as every day, every thought throughout the day was consumed with dreading my upcoming workout, obsessing over all the foods I couldn't eat, this general like obsession and misery, just living in misery. And I remember thinking, do I want to live the rest of my life like this? No. Okay. And that's kind of, you know, anticlimactic, but that was for me. I was like, okay, this obviously isn't working, so I'm going to do something. You know, I don't want to live like this.
Well, it's you waking up in the morning. So like one question to ask yourself, when you wake up in the morning, are you excited for the day or are you just ready for the day to be over?
Or you think about all the things you don't want to do that you
don't want to do. It's like, whoa, like, okay, I'm thinking of all the things I'm restricted or I have to do rather than it's my choice.
Yeah. No way to live. Gosh. Yeah. I'm so big on, not only doing what you love with your life and being excited every day, but enjoying your eating, enjoying your do exercise that's fun. And obviously, there's tons of research that shows the benefits of strength training, but I'm still happy if some people actually don't like lifting weights. I'm happy, my mom doesn't, she'll kind of make every excuse in the book not to lift weights. But if she's staying active in other ways, I'm happy. She takes Zumba classes, she does Pilates. I'm happy she's staying active.
Movement is everything.
Yeah, right.
Just move. Yep.
I'm like, okay,
Absolutely.
just find an exercise you enjoy and do that on a regular basis. Even if it's not strength training, that's fine. Hopefully you eventually do lift weights, but if not, that's cool too.
Oh, well, yeah, you meet people where they're at. What is the one thing that they can do consistently over time? And that's
Right.
it. And that's like the investment of your life, like understanding your life as an investment, and everything is like a long-term mentality rather than that short-term win. So this is awesome. I've really enjoyed this so far, and I want to thank you again for this. But we're going to lead into our final question, and it's a fun one. So it's actually, and whenever I first start describing it, you're going to be like, what? But here we go. So today is your funeral. There are thousands of people there to mourn the loss and celebrate your life. There's somebody on stage at the microphone about to say your eulogy. You have no idea whether you've known them your whole life or you only had met them one time. What is that person going to say about SoHee Lee's life?
Gosh. Okay. First of all, I hope I don't die today. That would be nice. I'm not ready to go just yet. Oh gosh. I've actually thought about this for a little bit. Hopefully this is more like years down the road, but it'd be nice. I would like to be known, especially for career-wise, as someone who wanted to make a lasting impact on the industry and do more than just sell programs and be a coach to a handful of clients, and someone who really played a big role, and I'm not there yet, who played a big role in changing the tide of the industry, with getting people to change the way, getting people to change trends in the industry is really, like, change the way they practice things is really hard. Takes a long time. It's really slow going, but I would like to really be a part of a big part of that movement towards, maybe we shouldn't use these terms when we talk about food anymore. Maybe this is how we should talk to people, and got people to open their minds up to more moderate methods more, and really was very vocal about her journey and her struggles, and encouraged people to lift, especially women, lift weights and whatnot. So that's my fitness aspect. The personal aspect, I think I'm still working on, but I'd love to get to the point, and I'm nowhere near there yet, where people can say, she was that friend who, like you talk about, the way she treated people, etc., makes you light up the room, makes you feel good, all those things. I can't say I'm the best at that right now. I'm pretty far from it, but something I'm always working toward. And you always think about when you hear about someone passing or something, you think about their professional accomplishment, sure, but you also think about, okay, they made me feel better than anyone else ever made me feel. And I think that there's maybe two people in my entire life who, maybe it's been years since I've talked to them, but I can still think about that person and say that whenever I was around this person, she made me feel so good about myself. She made me feel so important. She was always very interested in what I had to say, was genuinely invested in my well-being, things like that. It'd be cool to be that person. I think as an introvert, that's kind of comes a little bit harder for me. But those are people that I always look up to, is the person who can walk down the hallway in college and stop at every single room on their way down and somehow know every person in there.
I know, that's so cool.
How do you even do this? Because I was not that person, but those are the people that I really look up to and admire. Not so much professional accomplishments, which are obviously cool, but your ability to positively affect other people's lives and brighten up their day just by being yourself. That's hard to do. So maybe by the time I'm gone, that's something I'll have improved upon a little bit.
I think you're doing a great job, and I can say that personally. I don't know if you've definitely expedited the way I see a lot of things. So I just want to, you've been somebody that I have trusted, who I didn't really even know. I just knew you through your content and I trusted it. And so
you followed me before Instagram, so this was like the blogging days.
this blogging days.
It's so funny.
Yeah. So like I actually found Lane from you. I found
What?
Brett. Yeah, that's right. Backwards, right? Yeah.
I should tell him that right now. That's the first time I've actually ever heard that. It's always,
Yep.
I found you through Lane. Oh
Yeah,
God.
I found Lane through you,
Uh-huh.
which is just it's a super cool thing. So
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, from everything you said that you're working on, I think that you're a lot further along than you think you are.
Oh,
So
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
I really, I feel so cheesy saying this, but I absolutely love what I do. I love my career. It's super, like, I get to, make money doing the things that I love, and how cliche is that? But how many people are not living that life, who are miserable?
Too many.
And I'm very excited about upcoming projects that I have up my sleeve. And it's really been fun for me to have the platform that I have, to reach as many people as I do right now. Obviously not as many as some other people out there, but to know that every day there are more and more people hearing my message, listening to me, willing to learn from me, and being able to educate people over and over on the same messages of nutrition and dieting and fat loss and mindset and lifting weights and exercise, things like that. It's really awesome. It's really awesome. And I'm sure you feel the same way too, to have your big following and people who you can impact from all around the world, who, you don't know them, but they know you. And to know I can make this positive. I think social media can be so good in so many ways. Obviously it has its downfalls too, but the ability to I just did my administered my survey for my master's thesis on Instagram, on Facebook, on social media. And how cool is it that I can use my platform to do that now, to make a positive impact in the scientific community eventually, to spread a positive message, things like that. So it's really been fun to have that platform. Maybe 5 years ago, we really didn't have that anymore. And I feel like the industry is changing so fast. And, you got to adapt, you got to grow, you got to change your methods and keep up with the times. And, like what I said before, keep producing quality content. That's something that I'm up for the challenge. It's not easy for sure. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm excited for it. And really cool even to have the opportunity to speak on podcasts too, is just another way to get my message out, to repeat again the same message in a different format with a different person asking me a question in a slightly different way. So I love all these things. I will continue repeating my message for many years to come.
Yeah, I mean, just being a practitioner, that's what it's all about. Just always humbling yourself on a daily basis, which is super cool. So I just want to say and thank you from everybody that's been listening as well, for coming on. This has been awesome. I'm leaving this feeling very grateful that I've been able to do this, because I'm grateful for you and grateful for everybody listening. And thank you again, SoHee.
It's the holiday season. It's the season of gratitude. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you have a Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And thank you everybody for listening. As always, thank you so much. And we appreciate you. So as always, thanks for listening. God bless. And we'll see you guys in the next interview. So, all right. SoHee, thank you so much.
Cool. Hey, how long have you been doing this podcast?
We started it. This is going to be episode 10. So we started a little under a month ago. But we've been hustling with it. So yeah, so we're trying to really, just kind of just hustle with it. It's just something that I was getting questions about all the time. And I selfishly wanted it because I'd be traveling a lot and I'd be meeting a lot of my mentors and everything like that. And then I'm like, man, like if people were a fly on the wall being able to listen to this, like this is unreal.
They would benefit from listening.
Yeah, and it was so cool. And so now I've built all these relationships to where I can expedite the process. I can interview people and have
Yes.
a very impactful interview. Like
Yeah.
some of them, like I'll be honest, like 5 out of my 10 interviews, there's been like crying during the actual interview. And it's like, whoa, like this is intense. But like that's like it's like, whoa, like for real. Like, and this is so cool because this is gonna be so relatable to everybody listening because you're a very relatable person, and it's somebody that I think a lot of people will get a benefit from. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah, I really like doing podcasts every now and then. I think, especially with video calls too, there's something you don't get from just emailing people back and forth or texting back and forth, and having that face-to-face interaction
Yeah. Oh,
is
it's real. It's real. Like I honest to God, like I think we're friends now. Like I think of you as a friend. So like that's cool. Like it's I mean it might be one way, but I definitely think that. And it's just like with meeting somebody in person, you can't really go off your intuition until you've truly met somebody and you're like going back and forth.
Yeah, right. The
Hmm.
general vibe, yeah. But I think it's cool what you're doing. I think I think podcasts are a great way to get to know people and get to um, pull the information out of them that maybe through text you don't quite get through an infographic or whatever. They don't quite
Absolutely.
say that message. But yeah, that's something yeah, I would like to, I think starting next year, I'll get my YouTube back up and running, but that's what I'll be doing too, interviewing people for my YouTube. I won't be doing a podcast for myself. Partly because I already have one with Lane.
Hmm.
It's been kind of spotty because he's got a lot going on in his life.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's a really, really important way that beyond Instagram, beyond infographics, that having that extra layer of the more human aspect.
Below the surface
Yeah,
level.
that stuff is important.
Definitely.
And I think that's a really good way to make. I think that's honestly, I think it's more effective at making change because
Hmm.
I can see your
Well,
face.
you know, with psychology, it's that emotional response. Like
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
psychology we make, it's not based on rationale. Like we make a lot of decisions a lot more quickly if it was rationale, but it's more out of an emotional, okay, I'm ready, or that
Well,
trust factor.
who do you feel closer to online? Someone who's like you don't I never see their face, but they're always posting graphs and infographics,
Hmm.
or people who actually talk to the camera and you can see their face and see their, you know what I mean? So I think that yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. You have, like I said during the interview, have a wonderful and Merry Christmas and
Sure.
Happy Holidays.
Send me what's the turnaround time usually for these?
We'll have it. So we have, what is it? We're at 7, so 8, 9. We have 2 more, I think, which will be going out before this one, and then this one will be going. So around the holidays, we're gonna like kind of be strategic on when we're gonna launch them and
You
stuff.
know, you're gonna work around the holidays.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little weird about it. So I'll definitely give you a heads up at least a day prior to it going live.
If
If
you
that's
send me the
cool.
link, I'll post it and let my followers know.
Awesome. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. And let me know if you ever wanna do anything, or if there's anything ever that you think I can help with, I'd be more than happy to. Don't hesitate whatsoever.
Cool. Awesome. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you so much. So you have a great one.
All right, you too.
See you.